What's good, YouTube? Once again, it's Casey to go for Vernon Speak Sports. We're talking Auburn football, and then the Deep South college football is king. And on the plains of Auburn, the battle cry is War Eagle. Once again, we are talking Auburn football as well as the rest of college football in this particular podcast. ESPN has issued their post-spring top 25 for 2019. Go ahead and like this video. Comment in the comment section. The Fearless and True Gang get it very active in the comment section. Like I said before, ESPN has issued their top 25 preseason poll, and it's a little bit different from the Athlon poll that came out about a week ago. Apparently, the sports writers at ESPN feel a little bit different about the top 25 coming into the 2019 season as the guys over at Athlon. You talk about the top 25. Rounding up the poll is Mississippi State out of the SEC. In that poll, they have to replace a starting quarterback this year, and rightfully so, for them to be bringing up the rear in this poll. Also, you got Army, Iowa, and Syracuse, and Wisconsin, who has been a pretty mainstay in the Big Ten. They hope to bounce back from an 8-5 record. Then you go into between the 20 and 16th ranked teams. There you find the Auburn Tigers, who were number 18 as they were as well in the Athlon poll. Auburn also brings back a wealth of experience, especially on the defensive side of the football field. And you're talking about the entire offensive line returning from an offensive line that struggled, especially in the interior. When you look at the video footage on the Auburn Tigers, most of their struggles took place in between the center and the guard position. A lot of teams were able to blow things up right up the middle. Auburn hoping to recover on that part. That's going to be a very pivotal thing for the Tigers to get the offensive line fixed in order to make a run in the 2019 season. You also talk about having a relative wealthy amount of talent at the running back position. Boobie Whitlow, Jartavius Whitlow out of Lafayette, Alabama, a very unlikely prospect for the Auburn Tigers. He was actually picked up last minute by Chip Lindsey. Chip Lindsey apparently saw some talent there. Really, in my honest opinion, wasn't expecting Boobie Whitlow to have the impact that he has had, especially at the running back position for the Auburn Tigers, but was very relatively successful. Auburn failed to have a 1,000-yard rusher, but Boobie Whitlow came dangerously close. I would like to believe that if it weren't for injuries, I think Boobie Whitlow would have been a early 1,000-yard runner. Might not have been like the 1,200 or 1,300, but would have been at least a 1,000-yard runner. Nonetheless, of course, Auburn has the quarterback battle going with Joey Gatewood and Bo Nix. It appears, for the most part, that Joey Gatewood is probably the slight favorite at this point, but we don't know as summer practices have not ensued for college football, and nonetheless, the Auburn Tigers. As we go on up, it's a little bit different for the Pac-12. The Athlon actually saw Utah and Washington as the favorites to make a run in the Pac-12, but the ESPN poll actually picks Oregon as being a top 10 team this year, number 10 coming into this particular poll, and rightfully so. You look at the Oregon Ducks returning a very, very talented quarterback in Justin Herbert. Troy Dye, who is very active as a linebacker for the Oregon Ducks. One thing I noticed, I was watching film on Oregon and Washington of last year. Troy Dye has a lot of range. He pretty much can solidify things in the interior run game, but he does add a lot of support in the pass game as well. He made a very, very nice play about 15 yards beyond the line of scrimmage in coverage in the Washington game, and then saw a little bit of that in the Stanford game as well. Very talented linebacker. Good deal for Oregon that he decided to come back. Oregon had a lot of fortunate things happen over the offseason. Of course, having Chris Steele out of Florida to transfer up to Oregon because of some hardships going on down there. And also Juwan Howard. And, of course, we can't discount the impact that Kayvon Thibodeau will have on the Oregon defense. So the ESPN feels that Oregon should be the favorite in the Pac-12 versus Athlon, who thought that Washington and Utah would make a run. Also, another difference in this particular poll is instead of Alabama being the number one team in the country, you have defending national champions Clemson, who take on the number one spot. And, you know, I think Clemson is definitely on task to make another run in college football. You talk about the ACC, who still have some rebuilding to do, especially when you talk about Florida State and Miami. So for Clemson to be the number one team seems to be very plausible. They look very good on both sides of the football field. They're definitely having the better quarterback in the country. You know, if you really think about this, Clemson should be, I think, the number one team. You know, of course, coming off of a national championship appearance with Alabama, very dominant in that particular ball game. So when you really think about it, this poll, I'm not going to say is, you know, definitely accurate, but it's really not a bad poll setup, you know, coming into the 2019 season. You know, Trevor Lawrence, Clemson's quarterback, could definitely make a run for the Heisman Trophy. Dabo Swinney is developing a very nice program over there, getting very close to having dynasty status, especially if Clemson is able to get back into the college football playoffs and definitely win again. You have to start the conversation, or at least solidify the conversation, as Clemson as a current dynasty in college football. Of course, you have Alabama coming off the number one recruiting class in the country yet again. Of course, will have the talent to make a run. Of course, the emergence of the SEC, you're talking LSU, who's going to be a lot better, having more offensive production with Joe Burrows returning, and also having a little bit more diversity in the offense. LSU definitely will make a run. Florida finds themselves in the top 10 in this poll as well, with Dan Mullen and Felipe Franks. Florida definitely made a nice run late in the season, including a thrashing over Florida State and a signature win over Michigan in a New Year's Six Bowl. So I want you guys to tell me what your opinion is of the ESPN top 25 poll that has come out and how you feel about this. Once again, it's K2 to go for Vernon Speak Sports. We're talking Auburn football like nobody's business. And as always, War Eagle.